Today, we're going to unravel a scientific mystery that took 80 years to solve. It's an incredible story that connects a fossil that went missing, a single old photograph, and a modern team of scientists who decided to crack this very, very cold case.
So, when you think of saber-toothed cats, what comes to mind? Probably the icy plains of North America or Europe, right? But what about a subtropical island like Taiwan? It sounds pretty unlikely. And for decades, it was nothing more than speculation. But what if I told you the proof was hiding in plain sight for almost a century?
That's right. In 2022, a groundbreaking study finally confirmed the unthinkable. And the wild part is, this story isn't about some new expedition or digging up a brand new bone. Nope. It's about re-examining an old, forgotten clue that officially puts one of history's most iconic predators on the map in Taiwan. Okay, so to really get how we got here, we have to rewind the clock. This is a story about evidence that vanished, a mystery that was put on a shelf, and the incredible, stubborn persistence of science. It all kicks off in 1942. A fossil jawbone is found and carefully described. But then, for nearly 80 years, nothing. Radio silence. The actual fossil disappears, becoming this kind of ghost in the scientific literature. And then, boom. In 2022, the case is blown wide open. So let's meet our original detective. This is Professor Ichiro Hayasaka, a geologist at what is now National Taiwan University. He was the very first person to study this fossil, which was found down in Tainan. He knew he had something special on his hands, but he couldn't have possibly known the whole story. And you can see the original puzzle right there, in Hayasaka's own words. He identified the fossil as belonging to a cat, the genus Felis, but he noted its unusually large size. He thought, maybe this is some kind of tiger. By documenting and publishing everything he found, he unknowingly laid the groundwork for a massive discovery 80 years down the road. Okay, so fast forward through the decades. The fossil is lost to time. Then a new team steps onto the scene, and they're armed with modern technology and a whole lot of new knowledge about the feline family tree. They decided it was time to take another look at Hayasaka's old cold case. Our modern-day protagonist is Associate Professor Ching-Shu Tai, and get this, he's working at the exact same university as Hayasaka. His team stumbled upon that original 1942 paper, and as they put it in their own research article, they raised an eyebrow, sensing that the case was not so simple. Now, you have to understand the challenge these guys were facing. It was huge. I mean, think about it. They didn't have the fossil, they couldn't hold it, they couldn't scan it. All they had to work with was a single, old, black and white photograph of a piece of a jawbone. And to make it even harder, there was no scale bar in the photo to tell them how big the thing actually was. It was a total paleontological long shot. So how on earth do you solve an 80-year-old mystery with so little to go on? Well, you get creative. You combine that classic detective work with some seriously cutting-edge digital analysis. Here's how they pulled it off. This is where the real scientific sleuthing begins. First, they took that old photo and, using measurements from two known saber-toothed fossils in American museums, they digitally built a 3D model of the lost jawbone. Pretty cool, right? Then they ran that digital model through a massive comparison, checking its shape against 41 other cat species, both living and extinct. And finally, they plugged its features into the evolutionary tree of cats to see exactly where it fit in the family. And the result? Well, it's this stunning contrast. What Hayasaka had carefully and correctly for his time labeled as a common type of cat, Felis, was re-identified as something way more extraordinary, CF homotherium. Now that little CF just means compares favorably with. It's a scientist's way of saying we're pretty darn sure this is a homotherium, a real deal saber-toothed cat. So after all that analysis, every single piece of digital evidence pointed in one, frankly unbelievable direction. The mystery of the Tainan jawbone was finally solved. So what exactly is a homotherium? Well, these guys weren't your typical long-fanged smilodon from the movies. Homotherium, sometimes called the scimitar-toothed cat, had shorter, flatter, serrated canines, kind of like steak knives. They were built for speed and endurance, and they likely hunted in open habitats all over the globe during the Ice Age. And here's how they knew they were really on the right track. Everything lined up. The location in eastern Eurasia and the geological age of the rock layer it came from, the Middle Pleistocene, it all fit perfectly with what we already know about Homotherium. It was the right kind of predator, in the right place, at the right time. And get this number, 14.
That's the total number of other Homotherium fossils from that same time period that have been found anywhere in the world. This Taiwan specimen wasn't just another discovery. It was an incredibly rare piece of a massive global puzzle.
You know, for paleontologists, this was one of those moments that's both a total shock and a complete confirmation. See, genetic studies had suggested for a long time that Homotherium must have been really widespread. But a fossil is hard proof. The Taiwan jawbone was the missing physical evidence they needed, filling in a huge blank spot on the map of this ancient predator.
This whole story is about so much more than just a cool fossil. It's really about how science itself works, how it builds on itself across generations, across different fields, and even when a key piece of the evidence goes missing for a while. The modern team couldn't have done any of this without Professor Hayasaka's incredibly careful work back in 1942. Even though he didn't have the tools to make the final call, he did the most important thing any scientist can do. He observed, he recorded, and he shared his findings. He laid the foundation.
There's this beautiful quote from the 2022 research article that just perfectly sums it all up. Every discovery, every paper, every single photograph is a brick in that tower. Some of those bricks might just sit there for decades, their full purpose unknown, until a new generation comes along with new tools and new ideas to build upon them.
So in the end, this 80-year-old cold case leaves us with a really fascinating thought. How many other lost specimens and forgotten photographs are just sitting in museum archives or old journals, waiting for a fresh set of eyes to unlock their secrets? The next huge discovery might not be buried in the ground, but hiding on a library shelf.